You're watching No Ivory Tower Economics. Welcome back to the channel, guys. And today we're going to be talking about silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and tether dominance in no particular order. But we're going to start here with the most interesting chart of them all right now. And I think this is the silver chart. So right now I'm looking at the silver chart on a weekly chart. And as you could see, this is just breaking out to all-time highs. It did hit an all-time high today of 92, almost $93 per ounce of silver. And yeah, this thing is just it's just going into the stratosphere at this point. And I really do think, like I've talked about in my previous videos about silver, is I really do see silver hitting $100 this quarter. I wouldn't even be surprised if it hits it next week, but I think this quarter is definitely going to hit $100. I think there it's going to hit a psychological barrier. It might struggle there, have a nice pullback from that position, and then continue possibly a little bit higher into Q1, possibly Q2 of this year, and then there create uh, a high, possibly a macro high, and then you get a nice pullback there and pull back from that position, and a healthy number would be somewhere around here, maybe 50, high 60s. Nice pullback to this position before it kind of regathers its momentum and pushes higher at some point, right? As you could see here, there's potential for bearish divergence to form, but we need to see this closure to happen and the following closure to see if there's a potential here for bearish divergence. But there definitely is one. As you could see here, this previous high, and then it went higher. Now the RSI is printing a lower high, and this closes in 2 days, this weekly. I think you could also see it on the 5-day. Yeah, the same thing on the 5-day. Also extremes here in the BBWP, so it's normal for it to come down and the BBWP to reset again back down to the 50% level. Thus, it will essentially give you a nice little pullback, especially on divergence, bearish divergence. But on the other side of bearish divergence, we'll be looking for continuation divergence, continuation bullish divergence, or hidden bullish divergence. So that will create another run deeper into this year, especially when we're looking at a weekly, even this monthly look too. Now this monthly look, there's no divergence here at all, so this could stay high for a while. So yeah, so this is a beautiful chart. Yeah, and if it does pull back, like I said before, later in the summer, I'm looking at maybe the $60-$70 per ounce range as a potential interest area of interest for silver. So that's the silver chart. Gold is also pretty much at all-time highs as well. So there's nothing stopping the heavy metals right now. They're killing it. Actually, this is interesting too. So like I said in a previous video, oil is actually bouncing also off of the lows. So I had several lows in a row, and it's actually it bounced off of that, and now it's actually making an attempt to make a potential reversal. Let's see if it actually can make a reversal. I think first of all it needs to really get above this previous high here, and this is crude oil, like 65 $66, and really reclaim on the 2-day. Well, let's look at the daily. Really reclaim. Well, I mean, look, it's being held at the 200-day simple moving average, so it's actually finding resistance in that position, right? So if it could reclaim that that moving average, then the next target would be this previous high here, and then these two. So one step at a time. Let's see what oil does, but it's starting to look bullish, and I think that's kind of behind the news that has really happened in Venezuela in the last couple of days and stuff. So I guess it's like bullish for the market, I suppose. If the United States goes in there, starts extracting as much oil as it humanly can, which I'm sure they're going to do that anyway. So, and let's take a look at crypto. So Bitcoin breaking out here, beautiful. So this is something that I was expecting, and a few other channels are expecting too. This essentially is bull trap, right, which is very common after Bitcoin comes off of the all-time high, finds a low, and then it makes a counter trend rally, which is currently in the process of doing right now. And at some point, Bitcoin will always retest the 200-day simple moving average, which is currently sitting at 106,000 US dollars. If Bitcoin could reclaim the 200-day simple moving average, I would personally get bullish. Until that happens, I still think we're in a downtrend, and it's just a counter trend move. And Bitcoin, in my opinion, is heading to lower price levels. And I'm looking around that $60,000 per Bitcoin. But right now, it's playing out just how it has historically, it has done in previous cycles, and it always does a counter trend rally, and it always retests its 200-day simple moving average for the most part. So it's in the way of doing that, and let's see what happens. Let's see if I have. Yeah, and you see my LARP line kind of is playing out how I drew it just a little bit. My LARP line was a little bit ahead, so that's also pretty interesting to see. And let's take a look. Bitcoin dominance is kind of, it's starting actually, starting to move its way up. I mean, it's created a higher low here, so let's see if it could get above this high, and we'll see what happens. I think overall Bitcoin dominance, it's going to go higher. And let's take a quick look at Ethereum. So yeah, so like, I mean, my mid-January, let's look at the weekly. I think it's on on pace, or it's on target for it to hit this, my previous what I thought it was gonna get to. I sometimes I can't speak English. Anyways, so I expect Ethereum to get somewhere in this square in the next 2 weeks to 3 weeks, somewhere here, maybe even potentially as late as late February, and really start retesting this 200-day simple moving average, which is currently sitting at $3,641, and it's in an uptrend here, right? And from a closing basis, it's in a yeah, on a closing basis, it created a higher high versus this high. If Ethereum could close here or higher on a closing basis, it's higher than this previous high as well. So it's definitely on a closing basis an uptrend. On a wick basis, not quite there yet, but I do see this rally continuing higher, at least into this box, and potentially higher from there, hopefully. And then finally we'll look at the tether dominance. And yeah, so tether dominance has an inverse relationship with the price of Bitcoin, and really the price of Bitcoin, right? So tether dominance goes down, the price of Bitcoin goes up. So let's look at it at a weekly, because I think that's a little bit more interesting. So yeah, so like Tether has a lot of room to breathe here, right? This is an uptrend. So can Tether come down to like even as low as 5.18% is very possible, and that will definitely send Bitcoin up to that 100K mark, if not higher, right? So only time will tell, but I definitely think that right now it's going to find a bottom, possibly somewhere here. And I think this is a very realistic target somewhere in this box, maybe a little bit lower, potentially down here, but I really think somewhere in this box, a 618 retracement level, I think it's a realistic target for tether dominance to get down to before we get the real downward move in Bitcoin, and then seeing an explosion in tether dominance to much higher levels, right? And possibly, I don't think it'll get that high, but it'll probably get somewhere to those previous highs that we had in the last bear market, which is you're in this like 9.5% level. And yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking at in terms of like the markets, the things that I'm interested in. And yeah, and traditional markets, actually, I'm not gonna pull up the chart, but it's actually pulling back a little bit. But yes, that's it for today. And if you like the content, like and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Bye.